You ever seen a spleen that large?
No, not since breakfast.
He's got lots of names.
My name is Igor Stravinsky.
Hi there, I'm Harry S. Truman.
I'm Don Corleone.
Lots of charm.
Can I borrow your towel for a sec? My car just hit a water buffalo.
And lots of nerve.
Lay back and enjoy.
What in the heck is the matter with you? Chevy Chase is Fletch.
Are you serious?
Rated PG. Starts Friday at select theaters.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Not Content Podcast. My name is Jerome, and tonight we are going to be discussing another movie from 1985. This week we will be discussing Fletch. As always, please leave a 4 or 5-star review on Apple and Spotify to get those algorithms going. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. Click the bell icon to receive notifications. Brian is my co-host, and Brian and I kind of disagreed last week on Goonies, and we're going to have a slight disagreement on Fletch as well. Look, I will acknowledge that this movie is not perfect. I think it is very messy, like so many 1980s movies are. Again, I always believe that you have to assume that all 1980s movies are fueled by cocaine, this one being no different. I think in so many ways this comes across like a bit of a knockoff of Beverly Hills Cop, and we can get into the how and why in just a few minutes. But Brian did not like this movie very much, and we'll get into the why. But this is very notable because it is, of course, starring Chevy Chase, the original star of Saturday Night Live. It also features two recently passed individuals, two people who have recently, unfortunately, are no longer with us. That being Joe Don Baker and George Wendt. And Brian, yeah, Fletch, not your favorite movie of all time, huh?
Okay, I don't know what it is, but this script is written in a very peculiar way where I can tell that, like, Chevy Chase is the only one doing a comedy movie and everyone else is in a detective movie. And usually, like, I'm a big Lebowski fan and that really would appeal to me, but for some reason, this just didn't click, and I felt like Chevy Chase was in a completely different movie than everyone else. It's one of those situations for me, and I don't know. Like everything he's saying, I get it. It's like everything is a one-liner, and everything he's saying is like a reverse of your expectation, and that's what a comedy line's supposed to be written as. And he just keeps going and going and going, and he just keeps going and going and going. And then I'm like, is he going to be the only one trying to do comedy here? We're gonna have other people trying to do comedy here, and everyone is just like straight face doing it normal. And I'm just like, oh, this is bad. This is like, I don't know what's going on here. And I'm just kind of going along with it, like hoping it's going to get like funny. And it just never got like funny to me. I think I laughed like one time. I was marking out for the Lakers stuff because I'm an old school Laker fan like that. But sure, you know, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in a cameo, really cool. But
maybe not Chevy Chase in blackface. Not good. Not good.
Somehow Kareem was on camera with him, and I don't know. I don't know. Very strange.
It was a different time, 40 years ago, man.
Different times.
I don't know. I like this as a neo-noir. I don't think that this movie is perfect, but I think that there are some very funny elements. I think Chevy Chase, as the comedic foil to everything that's going on, I think is pretty funny. And I think they're definitely playing with this idea of Los Angeles as kind of this humorless place, but Chevy Chase is trying to bring some funny to it. And I think this is just a case of, you know, Chevy Chase is a white hot actor at this point, and that's why you create this movie for him. It is specifically designed to get him over as a comedic force. And if you look at everybody else in this movie, they're playing it straight. And I think that's how you end up with a movie like this. And I think that is for better and for worse. I think that has its positive elements because, again, I think Chevy Chase comes across really well in terms of being humorous, but I think it definitely leads to some tonal issues. I mean, I will acknowledge that there are some significant tonal issues with this movie, but I think the fact that it's only 98 minutes, I think it's to his benefit. If this is a movie that is over like an hour and 45 minutes, like last week I was talking about that as being a primary issue with the Goonies, I think it would be a major issue here. But I think it actually works out. There's the fact that this movie is relatively short, and I think it's decently well paced. I think the first half of the movie is also much funnier than the second half. But I mean, the thing about this movie is that it made $59 million on an $8 million budget, so it's really easy to see, like with a movie that has this low of a budget, pretty easy to make its money back. And yeah, I think it kind of works. Again, I don't I know it's not perfect, but I think in keeping with a lot of the movies of this time, these funnier cop movies. Again, Beverly Hills Cop to me is what this feels like. Like it feels like this movie is kind of a ripoff of Beverly Hills Cop in so many ways. But again, this is designed to get Chevy Chase over as a comedic actor, and I think it works.
So for me, it feels like there was just so many things that were off about the tone that it made me think, why him be goofy? Why not everyone else be goofy around him? You know what I'm saying? Like, go with it. Just all the characters go with it except just him. And I was just kind of like, wow, like this is like so like tonally like just so off for me. And it's really rare for me to do that with a comedy because I feel like sometimes if everyone's trying, I'll kind of get into it and laugh a lot along with it, and I just didn't laugh along. I wasn't laughing along with what he was saying. And then I think the only part I laughed at was the physical comedy with the corpse, right? When he's looking down at the
Right.
cadaver.
I mean, I
And
think
they're
that's
playing
I
it
think
straight, obviously, but he's
yeah.
like obviously not. But at least that's something that I kind of like, oh my God, like that's horrible, and start laughing about it. But other than that, it's like, okay, come on, guy, like, because at least I hate to compare it to Big Lebowski a lot, but at least Big Lebowski, Jeff Bridges is not the only goofy character in the movie. There's a movie full of goofy characters that make you intrigued. In this case, I didn't care about all the straight-laced characters because obviously it felt like this is like, what are we doing here? Why am I focusing on you? And and then of course this movie has two different plot lines combining into one, and it's kind of forced at the end to kind of combine both. Like one about a drug plot line with the cops, and then another about being framed for a murder that he's being paid for. That which I thought was so odd. Like, who is this guy? Why are you agreeing to go with him in a car for $1,000? Like, I get the prostitution jokes going into it, and then it kind of goes like, wait, why did you say yes? Why would you agree to kill this guy that's saying I need you to kill me in 5 days or whatever, and I'm gonna give you this money? And just go off of this different tangent that had nothing to do with the story that he was supposed to be writing
I
anyway.
mean, I
So
think that's the essence of a lot of these comedies of this era is that you get these vignettes. I think Beverly Hills Cop does some of the same, and I think either you will find the vignettes funny and the movie works, or you will not find those vignettes funny and the movie will be excruciating to get through. So I think that's part of the issue is that you're not finding the vignettes funny. I don't disagree that they are not connected to the plot line, but I think some of them work. Some of them certainly don't. But if you don't find that they work, if everything is just clanging and not hitting, then you're not going to enjoy this movie because that's what it is. Like, and again, Beverly Hills Cop, I think, does a lot of the same kind of scenes, skits. Eddie Murphy was playing kind of different characters. Chevy Chase in this movie is playing kind of different characters, and I think they're going for that similar vibe.
like if you would have told me that both movies take place in like the same universe and there was like a crossover in the 80s that I never knew about, I would believe you. But in this case, it just feels like they definitely went for that LA noir vibe. I'll give them that because I recognize all these locations and Santa Monica kind of looks the same other than they added some cool rides on the pier, right?
Which
And
is
there's some
hilarious to me that after 40 years it still looks as similar as it
Well, I
does.
mean, if you just go on the sand, you're not going to tell that it looks the same, but there are some buildings that are nice that have like rich people in the back that homeless people do hang out of on the walkway. But that's but there's still the issue of the homeless people and it kind of looks the same. So in terms of that, go like if you go under the pier, it will probably look exactly the same, disgusting and all kinds of God
Certainly.
knows who people there. But it does have the look and feel of like a good LA story kind of thing or LA detective story. And I pretty much am sure that you can go to all these locations in Grand Theft Auto 5. Almost positive of that because they
Ah,
layered the same map,
yeah.
including the same looking buildings that he goes to, like apartment buildings, because it looks very similar. Um, and that credit to Grand Theft Auto 5 for having such a big map. So, it just made me think of that, and it just made me think of like this feels like a Grand Theft Auto movie without the coolness and the badassness, but it's just Chevy Chase in the role as the main guy, stealing cars and getting shot at, and just the same thing. And I kept thinking
I
like,
will, what I would be very curious to know is if you watch. So there was a Fletch movie that came out in 2022 starring John Hamm called Confess Fletch. I would be very curious to know your feelings on that movie because the tone is just very different because John Hamm is not the same type of performer as Chevy Chase. So I would just be very curious if that movie was maybe more your speed.
well, I'm kind of curious as well because for some reason, I don't know why, but Fletch 1 and 2 are not available on streaming as of right now. They probably were last year at some point or
You can
whatever.
rent them. This isn't
Yeah,
like
but for some
Cocoon.
reason,
Cocoon I can't find anywhere.
we'll get to that
Fletch
in a
I can
second.
rent. Yeah, we'll get to that. Yes.
But Amazon Prime, I guess, has the rights to it because they streamed it originally, correct?
I don't know. I had to
That's
purchase
my assumption because I don't think it was released in theaters. I don't remember any promotional stuff
Confess
for it.
Confess Fletch was released on VOD. It was released not in theaters. You are correct, but it was released
Okay,
in VOD,
so it
and
feels
people
like an
were annoyed
Amazon
because
Prime
it's very
thing.
good.
Yeah, so I'm kind
I
of
mean,
worried that.
its box office is
Oh
$656,000
my god,
on a budget of $20 million. So not great.
that's an Amazon type move to do. But because I mention Amazon because it seems like whenever they take over a property, they kind of distance themselves from the original property to make it different. So it
Yep.
probably is different, but not in the tonal way I'm hoping, and hopefully everyone is on the joke and they
Yeah.
just got to go along with it.
Unfortunately.
Kevin Smith at one point had a script for a Fletch 3 called Fletch Lives that never went anywhere, and probably thank God for that because I love Kevin Smith still, but him in this character, I
Jason Lee was
cannot
supposed to be
imagine.
Fletch, which could have
Oh
been
my
interesting.
God. I
Ryan
just,
Reynolds stole Jason Lee's career. You will never convince me of that being the case. If that Ryan Reynolds stole his career.
oh my God. Oh boy. But, yeah, so do you want to, let's talk about Cocoon really quick because this is where we can talk about it, but, I had mentioned to Jerome that Cocoon is a really hard movie to find, and the fact that I found it in like a movie lot on a Facebook Marketplace listing, and then paid $40 for the lot, sold the movie for 100, and everything else was just
Yeah,
profit,
I did
obviously.
not realize this was such a hard movie to find because
Yeah, and it's
it's
not
very
like
popular, but
it's not Ron Howard's fault. It's not like Steve Gutenberg's fault. It's like a rights thing. And I guess they had the rights up until 2010 when the Blu-ray was produced, because that's when the Blu-ray came out. And ever since then, there's been like zero copies produced. They're really hard and scarce to find. I got lucky, folks, finding that in a Facebook Marketplace locally and then selling it online for $100. If you ever find one, I mean, watch it, I guess. And if it's open, or if it's not open, don't open it, and that'll just that'll be a
a
nice little bonus for you at the end of the
couple
week when you
hundred
sell it,
bucks
because
in your pocket.
it did not take long for me to sell it, folks, either. So I'm telling you, like there are movies out there. Dogma was on that list, but Dogma's getting redistributed now, so that's not going to be on the list anymore. But there are lists of movies that are like this, and Cocoon is one of them. But that left us with Fletch. But I'm not like splitting hairs or anything. I'm just kind of just showing you folks that there are certain movies out there that are worth your time and money to like look for and resell or add them to your collection because they are valuable. But maybe one day we'll tackle Cocoon 1 and 2 because I think I've mentioned before that Brian Dennehy is probably one of my more favorite underrated actors of previous generations, so to speak, and he knocks it out of the park in that one in terms of sci-fi. So, but yeah, in terms of Fletch, I'm kind of at a 5 out of 10. Um, I don't know if I had to choose between this and Harlem Nights. I think I got to go with Harlem Nights, which I know is so strange to say, but man, I think I would have had a better. I think I had a better time watching Harlem Nights than this.
That's so weird. Like I enjoyed this movie. I'm at a 7 out of 10. I think this movie is very funny at times. Again, acknowledging the flaws, but I mean this was my jam, and it's so fascinating that we've disagreed. Maybe we will agree on next week's movie because next week we are going to be discussing our very first Clint Eastwood movie. If you can believe it, we have never discussed a Clint Eastwood movie. We are rectifying that next week. We are going to be discussing 1985's Pale Rider, just as Clint Eastwood allegedly is going into pre production on another movie at 95 years old.
We're knocking on wood, right? We're knocking on wood.
I mean,
Um,
boy, are we.
but at least at least Fletch had a tie-in with George Wendt, and we got to mention that as well.
And
Col-
Joe Don Baker. And Joe
and Joe
Don
Don
Baker.
Baker. But I think the funny thing with George Wendt is that he's playing a character named Sam, and when I heard that, I just
Hilarious.
laughed and had a smile on my face, and I knew what they were doing. And I was like, oh, so this is going to be a kind of a smart comedy. And then he wasn't even that funny. He just sat there, which is fine because that's what he does in Cheers. So I found that funny as well. But
Yes.
his whole plot line just kind of went nowhere. And he was kind of a waste. And talking about waste, my goodness. Gina Davis is in this movie, folks. And she's not the love interest. And it's set up perfectly because it seems like she can stand his bullshit because obviously
Yes.
they've been working together for a while. But he just chooses the rich woman that he just met. And what does that tell you, folks? What does that tell you?
Should have played the long game. Gina Davis would have been better for that. That's all I'm going to say.
I know, and they would have better. Man, if she was like in the movie involved as her like as like cohorts, whatever detectives together or not. Well, see, that's the thing. You think he's a detective in this movie? He's not. He's a writer. So it's just
He is a
he's doing these
writer.
de he's doing detective things when he's supposed to be just
Right.
doing journalistic
Yes.
things, and it's
Yes.
crossing various lines that you're not supposed to cross as a journalist unless you're in a movie. So.
Yep. Unless you're Jake Tapper, but we're not going to get into that. All right. For Brian, I'm Jerome. Thank you so much. We will talk to you again next week.